Hey friends, I am once again like bleary-eyed doing this at the end of a very long day of being on Zoom. So my apologies for my eyes. Um, Eventually I'd like to figure out a way how to move through the world without the vision piece because my eyes, that's where my brain injury symptoms still live. And I would like my eyes to be far more capable than they are, but we're going to do this anyways because I feel like I need to get this information out. Um, it's been coming up a lot with a lot of people asking about how they've been craving a lot more processed food, junky food. Um, and that has been happening to me too. And I had a beautiful person who, thank you, that person knows who they are, who shared with me that this is actually explained in the 55th gene key. If you don't know what the gene keys are, that it's I guess, a framework for understanding um, life, and it's a bit of a evolutionary, like it was heavily influenced by um the person who wrote it or channeled it, however, whichever you think, his experiences with human design, um and his name is Richard Rudd. Let's hope I got that right. Let me just Gene Keys. Richard Rudd. Yes, I got it right. So I am going to include a link in the description to the 55th gene key. The lovely thing about the gene keys is that there's audio and like just the regular writing version of it for free on the website of all of the gene keys. And they go through like, it's sort of like a premise for who you are, but also there's the universal aspect to it. And I don't really know how to describe it well, but anyways, it describes who we are and the like evolution of the planet and how things are developing. And there is a piece in there specifically about the craving for more processed food as it relates to the content level of how much salt is in it. So I have been noticing this for about, I would say at least 6 months, that I have been eating plant-based and like, I guess you would say very clean for like at least a decade before this. And I have been vegetarian since I could like speak. I was very unwilling to eat meat as a child. But just in the past 6 months, I have been like wanting macaroni and cheese and like Oreos and Doritos and things that I really haven't eaten in a super long time. And I am very much a person who just like trusts whatever or I'm learning more and more and more. And I would say I am really able to trust what my body asks for. So I have been like going ahead and just eating the macaroni and cheese or eating the Doritos or eating the Oreos. And I was like, I don't know why this is, but I'm just gonna trust it. And this information is very validating for me, and I'm hoping it will be for a lot of you who have been sharing with me, like, I don't know what's going on. I'm eating all this chunky food and I'm having a hard time with it. Um, Now, I do want to say, like, sort of disclaimer. I'm not a dietitian. I don't know anything about like nutrition or anything. This is not medical advice. Also, I am a very like not participant in diet culture. I am very much, it is very important to me that we all get to have whatever foods and drinks that feel good to our body, that we let our bodies be however is right for our bodies. I do not believe that any body should look like any other body or do what any other body does. I really believe this stuff is like so about you and what's right for you. And I just think that this is an interesting framework for looking at the craving for more salty or more processed foods because diet culture has given us all a lot of fear about processed foods. And then we end up having guilt about the processed food. And that fear response or that defense response about like, oh, I'm eating bad food is creating a nervous system response that results in stress. And we know stress, stress will kill you faster than Doritos. Well, I'll tell you that much. So from a nervous system perspective, I think it's really lovely to receive this message, which is really one of like, trust the process, like it is a process and processed foods. I didn't even think about that. But it is a part of the evolutionary thing. So I'm going to go through this a little bit. I'm going to share my screen so that we can look at this. And I'm going to go, through it pretty slowly. So if you want to just skip and go read it yourself, you can. But the basic message is the processed foods are important right now because the salt in them is facilitating the releasing and processing of the victimhood, which is the 55th gene key, the victimhood, like good, bad, right, wrong, thing that's getting released from us, the fear programming. And it's releasing it through by attaching to the salt and then being released through tears and urine and sweat because it's the being facilitated, that genetic mutation that's moving away from fear-based thinking and victimhood is being facilitated by water. And so the water is gathering up that fear-based chemicals through the sweating and the peeing and the crying. And so it's very related to nervous system stuff and just like can help you if you're feeling concerned about craving and eating more processed foods. Okay. All right. So physical changes. So the secret of the 55th gift at the physiological level. So if you end up going to this article, just scroll way, 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 way down until you see physical changes. Lies in a single element, salt, right? So salt has been a purifier with its like ability to leach toxins from the body, I guess, for a long time. This is so funny because I've been shamed my whole life for being like a huge salt person. Like I put salt on every bite of food. So I wonder if like I've been doing this since I was born. But every single cell in your body has salt, which I think is amazing. It's a major like we know, like if people have high blood pressure or whatever, they're not supposed to eat salt. So it has to do with health status, like the balance of salt. So everything in the 55th gift. So the gene keys are like a gift and a shadow. So everything in the gift is rooted in the connection with water. And water holds memory. If you don't know about that cool messages in water thing, where they like labeled water with words and then they took pictures of it, check that out. I'll put a link in that too. That was one of my favorite things I ever learned and taught me a lot about how I speak to myself and others. Because we are water. Okay, so when your emotions are really intense, you release memory through the salt in your tears or your sweat. And so what's happening in this process as this, and the 55th gene key is coming major online for everybody in 2027. So what we're moving towards is, excuse me, the processing out of the ancient trauma that's been stored in our body through these fear chemicals. So the emotional awareness draws out the toxic genetic memories and then releases them through sweat, tears, and pain. So the same way that seawater evaporates to leave behind salt, human beings are going to be like evaporating out, and leaving behind the salt so that we are less dense. We're becoming more like the vapor that happens in evaporation. So a new network of neurocircuitry in the solar plexus is superseding the reptilian fear-based neurocircuitry of the old brain. Old brain meaning that thing that I always talk about, right? The defense states are here in the lower brain, which is the oldest in terms of evolution, oldest parts of our brains. So we're letting go of this old, what do they call it? The hind brain here, they call it. We're letting go of that with the closing down of certain chemical process associated with the hindbrain. So we're not going to rely as much on the fear-based experience. And without the toxins that the fear creates, we won't need the salt to process it out of our bodies as much. So what we're moving towards as this new thing comes online, where we're not needing to live in that reptilian, some people call this the reptile brain, the reptilian fear-based neurocircuitry, we will need less salt. And we'll stop craving salty foods. We'll stop eating meat. We won't be able to tolerate processed foods. And children, as they inherit that like mutated DNA, will actually be like allergic to salty food and meat, which I think we're already seeing like a lot of kids be less interested in meat or be interested in being vegetarian. And so this is not like online yet. This is coming in the next, I don't know. I don't remember, but I think it's like, next like 100 years. It's not like next 5 years. But right now what's happening is we need more salt than ever before, because we're doing not just like our day-to-day processing of the fear chemicals through the releasing of them, attaching them to the salt and releasing them through the water, through the crying, peeing, and sweating. We're doing it for like the whole last chunk of time. So it's like all of the historical trauma too that we're trying to gather up. So during the current transition, we actually require more salt for the toxicity of the past to be collectively purified. This is the hidden reason behind the current worldwide revolution in processed food. So nature, I love, this is my favorite line of the whole thing, probably. Nature knows exactly what she is doing, and we should take heart from this. So when you're like, I'm a bad person, I have poor self-control, I have like all these diet culture judgy messages that you are experiencing when you're like, I want to just eat ramen which interesting, I didn't think of that. I have eaten ramen every day for my lunch with like soy sauce ramen and like this super delicious salty gochujang, Korean like fermented chili paste for like a year. I can't eat anything else for lunch. It's so weird. Okay, so super salty. So we like the processed food evolved and like came online because nature knew we were going to need this extra salt to process through everything. And then this part's interesting. Digestion is rooted in the mineral realm, in the way in which the body uses and dissolves trace elements from food and water. In the future, in a totally new way, we will become highly efficient at drawing and combining the elements from food. The mechanical means for this will be through our moods. In other words, our body will tell us exactly what we need to eat and when through the medium of our mood. So this is the other thing that I think is really interesting, is that like this whole, I think it was like 5D, according to the way Jessa Reed explained it, but I can't quite remember, but maybe it was 6 or something, was one of the ones that like we have to figure out our emotions. And so our emotions are going to help us to determine what we need to eat, which I think is just great. And a lot of the nervous system work is understanding like what you are feeling physically, what emotions you're attaching to it, and all of that. So I think that's really cool too. and feeling what you're feeling, letting yourself feel what you're feeling. Okay, so one of the most likely effects of the mutation will be that we'll simply not feel hungry as often as we do now, with the result that we eat far less. So that's also interesting to me because like a lot of people are starting to do this intermittent fasting thing, right? And I've been having this little general like sensation that the reason why I'm really like wanting to do like a lot of processed foods right now is because they have like heightened flavors from the processing and heightened like concentrations of fat and sugar and salt, and that is the like experience, like the emotional experience of eating is much more intense with those like heightened um uh balance of things or imbalance of things. And I have this feeling that like we're not going to be eating very much longer in a pleasure way. We're not going to be eating for pleasure. We're going to be eating just like put gas in the car. So it'll probably be like, I don't know, like oatmeal or something really bland, and it's just like functional. And so I have this feeling that I want to like experience this a lot because I know that I'm not going to for very much longer on some level. Um, okay. Added to this, our bodies will begin to find other means of absorbing higher frequency food through air and sunlight. Eventually, far down the road, when the final pieces of the cosmic chess game are in place, the sixth city will flower within the collective, making our skin totally translucent, thereby allowing us to live purely on light. What? Isn't this stuff so cool and fun? Oh my gosh, I love it. So, moral of the story is, according to the gene keys, it is very valuable if you go ahead and eat the Doritos, people. Don't like eat Doritos unless you want Doritos, though. Don't force yourself to eat salt. The whole thing is you're you are right. Your guidance is right. What you are being guided to do is so beautiful. And we can trust that if we, let's say we feel like we're guided to eat Doritos, and you're like, am I guided or am I just like having a like dopamine need and I'm avoiding something and I'm emotional eating? Don't worry about it. Eat the Doritos. And then after you eat the Doritos or whatever it is you want to eat, ask yourself, like, how do I feel? Do I want to do that again? Did I like that? Did I not like that? What would I like to do as a result? I was telling someone the story today that um when I was 21, I had been raised in super diet culture and I had a major eating disorder. And I just like craved chocolate cheesecake. That's all I ever thought about. I just wanted chocolate cheesecake so bad, and I would never let myself have it. And so I made the decision, I am going to eat chocolate cheesecake until I'm sick of chocolate cheesecake. Like I'm just gonna like eat only chocolate cheesecake. So I did, and I ate only chocolate cheesecake for 2 weeks. And then I hated chocolate cheesecake and I like wanted a variety of foods. So like the moral of the story is if you have rules that you're operating within, whether they're food rules or clothing rules or whatever rules you have, if you have rules, the rules take away your consciousness. So it's the same thing. You can say rules or you can say pendulums if you're like familiar with reality transferring stuff. So if you have a rule, if you have a pendulum, it usurps your access to consciousness. And that's the easiest way to disempower large swaths of people, right? So as we come out of victimhood consciousness and fear-based, reptilian, whatever, and we're gaining more personal autonomy and sense of self, and we're increasing our access to our consciousness. Consciousness is the ability to meet the moment and make a new creative response to that moment. So the pendulum is Doritos are bad for you. Okay. Processed food is bad. Okay. Then you're not going to check in with yourself. You're just going to be like, oh, it's a rule. I can't do it. Consciousness is, oh, I'm seeing like a bag of Doritos in front of me. How do I feel about that? Let me do what a baby would do or what an animal would do. Let me smell it. Let me taste it. Let me decide. Do I like how this feels in my body? Do I not? And then I'm bringing consciousness and I'm bringing my internal nervous system wisdom along with my like access to universal consciousness through my nervous system wisdom to be able to make creative choices that are aligned with conscious interaction with the experience rather than operating off of pendulums where I don't get to have any consciousness. Yeah? Okay. I love you, love you. I'm going to put the information in the description and let me know what you think. I think this is really interesting. Okay.